Okay, welcome back, everybody. Good afternoon to the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee meeting. We left off with the interviews, and we are going to jump right in. I'd like to remind everybody that you're going to get up to 5 minutes to make your presentation, up to 5 minutes, and there will be roughly 2 minutes per committee member for questions. Our next project is the Police Activities League, PAL, sponsored by the Glendale Police Department.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome.
Hi there.
Please state your name for the record.
I'm Officer Renee Kerner, Glendale Police Department. And here with me I have one of the members of our Police Activities League equestrian program. This is Jamila Jabali, and she's been with our program going on almost 6 years. I met her when she was a 6th grader, and now she's a junior at Glendale High. And I'm just here to brag as to how nice our kids grow up, giving them some other opportunities outside just the normal things that are offered at the school. Should I tell you about the Police Activities Program, what it is?
Yeah,
Is
give us a brief overview.
Okay. The PAL program is a program that is based on a mentorship of the police department with our community's youth. It's basically an after-school program. Police statistics in the past have shown that juvenile misdemeanor crime is most likely to occur between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m., right when kids get out of school and before the parents get home from work, those unsupervised hours. So we have implemented the PAL program, where we have tried to create interesting programs that are good for the kids directly after school without them having to leave the campus. And we provide a mentorship of the police personnel, male and female, and a lot of times this mentorship provides either the missing male or female role model that may be missing in the home. And we also believe that the program is based on the premise that if we can teach the kids and show them the respect and the relationship of police officers at this young age and in a sports atmosphere, then hopefully that will spill over into the neighborhood and the streets and with the patrol officers, kind of bringing our community together. And at the young age, we target primarily the junior high school age, and we're looking into even going younger, maybe next year, implementing some things for this 5th and 6th graders in the elementary school age bracket, so that we can grab them before there are any other negative influences that can take over.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Bagdasarian.
I don't have any question. I've been to the center and I've been very impressed by the work that you do. It seems like the kids are there very excited, very happy, and they take part in the activities. So.
Thank you. I figured if I came here and told you and I bragged about how great the kids turned out, it would just be bragging. But if I brought a kid and she told you, it would be proof. In addition with just the activities, the PAL program is a big open window opportunity that allows us to not just meet the kids that we work with, but the entire family. And the Jabalis are, it's a good example of, she also has 3 other sisters. And it has allowed me to become, over the last 6 years, very close with the family. And they're each kid is very, very different needs. And I've been able to help them, some a lot more than others, in the family, you know, overcome obstacles and just some of the things that happen during the teenage years. So it's not just the sports, it's the whole relationship with the entire family that really, I think, makes a big difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Cornell?
Oh, officer, nice to see you back. I think you're out of uniform there for a while. So
yeah.
I remember last time we visited, you gave us some sad news about something about that they were closing the facility there, was it at Wilson, and that you're looking in for new facility, and I think the new facility was the old police facility building.
That's right.
Is that pretty much in the ballpark now?
Yeah, it's still working, and it really gives that, you know, grungy, rocky type of boxing atmosphere. It's really good. It's worked out well for us, and we're even we're trying right now to expand, maybe take over some more footage down there in the locker rooms, and that's looking pretty promising. But it's been it's been really good so far.
Well, it's nice to see a building that was vacated put back in use for a program like this, especially in the need of being able to find a location where it's conducive to the kind of activity that you provide. So I'm happy that we got a new location and a permanent one, and it couldn't be a better fitting, and also to see that you're back in full steam. Hopefully, before the end that you leave, we can hear from your sidekick there.
All right.
About her experiences, how positive experiences and so on that she has to relay about the PAL program. And I wanted to ask you too: is Sergeant? I met him.
Rodriguez?
Yes. Is he still involved in that as far as the?
Yes. He and Clemente Medina, our boxing coach, they're what makes the whole program a success. They're very dedicated and very talented individuals, not only athletically, but they're as fathers. Mm-hmm. They get the big picture where it's terrific if you become a boxer, but more importantly, learning the ethics of the sport and earning the right to be there. Those are the main things that that we look for, not just making athletes, but making good human beings for Glendale.
You're overlooking your part also, but being a prior member of CPAC, I know anything that the police are involved in is always a team effort. So I know you go on that basis as well.
Thank you.
Continue the good work. Glad that we have a permanent location now.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Mr. Olivares.
Thank you. I forget the kid's name. The little Armenian kid that is in the PAL program, in the boxing. I can never forget the little guy. He's got so much energy. And anyway, I know that we all enjoy going to see the kids boxing. But you have quite a range of ages. It's not just middle schoolers. I remember you have, at least in the boxing program, there were some smaller kids also.
Right. We would get some of the junior high school kids that would come in, and the parents have been really very, very supportive, which we always like to see. Just have the parents get involved, and they would say, well, I've got this other little kid, and so we'd say, as long as the environment is. The older kids are acting as mentors for the younger kids. We go ahead and keep that wide range, but we keep a very close tab on that we want to make sure the environment is good for everyone. And as the kids grow older, when they go into high school, if they've earned the right and they have developed the maturity to be a good role model for the younger kids, we allow them to continue in the program. We don't kick them out when they get into high school.
I'm glad to hear that you're talking about expanding, because when we were there, when we visited, we had a discussion about that. And where is that at? What's going on with the expansion to the space next to it?
You know what? I'm not sure. I know it's something that Sergeant Rodriguez has been working on over across the street. The gentleman that does risk management, his name escapes me, who's in charge of that building over there. Yeah, Paul Keel. I think he's working with them trying to figure out how that's going to happen, but we got our fingers crossed.
Yeah, good. We definitely support that, because we were talking about that when we were there, and it'll free up a little space for the kids.
Yeah, we've got, in both the equestrian program and the boxing program, we got kids waiting in line. I mean, it has a good reputation, and the word spreads quick in the schools.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivares. Mr. Sinanian.
No questions. Just keep up the good work. I want to make sure Jamila has enough time to say a few words.
Definitely. I don't have any. I have a couple quick questions, and then we'll let Jamila. Is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll let Jamila tell us about her experience. Roughly, how many times do you meet per week?
The boxing meets 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday. And the equestrian program is every Monday night to ride, and then I'm available for the kids for anything for homework or any other issues they might need in a counseling capacity.
And roughly how many weeks is it a year?
Every week.
Every week.
Mm-hmm. We continue through the summer program, through the summer months as well, because our kids matter even when school's out. We still need to keep. Even a couple weeks, someone can slip through the cracks. So we like to keep them interested year round.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jamila, tell us about your experience.
Well, since I've been in it since 6th grade, 7th grade, it's just been wonderful. Like, every single Monday since then, like, you had to keep your grades up no matter what, because it would affect your writing time. And if you didn't go, then what are you going to do Monday night? Like, we really, really look forward to all of us girls. We had like 16, 17, and we just loved it. And since then, I've been in it for like 6 years, and I even got to join this advanced team, which has given me the right to travel with them. We go to even Reno, Nevada, and we took home California state champions. And it's just something that every Saturday I even ride. I even got the chance to like be able to have my own horse because I earned it. Like, it's just something that has changed my life with my grades, my school, just little kids that have came into the program. I have been like a role model for them as well. It gives me the feeling of me being able to teach people. I've learned so much discipline, respect, everything and all. Like, it's just something that has benefited my life in every way.
Wow, that is spectacular. And I do have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How has your impression of police officers, especially in uniform, changed since you started the program until now? I mean, what was your impression when you first started with police officers? Were you scared of them?
Well, I thought it was like, because, you know, when you're young, the way we grew up, like, it wasn't very, police, why, you know? But we ended up, I ended up wanting to join the police program, what's it called? The Explorers. I went for a week, but if I ride in the advanced team every Saturday morning, and that's the same day the Explorers. But as soon as I'm 18, I could exit the advanced program. And if they allow me in the Explorers, I'm going to try to join every Saturday as well. But it's just, yeah, it's really good. I like it.
Fantastic.
Now she wears a uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jamila, and thank you, Officer. I mean, it's a fantastic program.
Thanks.
You know, we visited, and it's one of the most fun programs we come to, and it's.
You need to come to a horse
Yeah,
show.
you have to come to
That's
our
We took first
Yes.
place last time.
I know.
Yes, okay.
She mentioned it. You know what? I think that we're going to request that specifically this time. That our visit to the
We'll
PAL
drive
program.
you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Our visit to the PAL program this time around will be to one of the horse
Right on.
events.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can get on a horse. Okay?
No way. Yeah.
Boxing gloves for you also?
Oh, he likes to go play.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the horses. Okay, give you a few moments to fill out your sheets. And while you're doing that, our next program is the STAR program, Students Training as Role Models, and the sponsor is the Glendale Police Department. Take two. You'll have up to 5 minutes to make your presentation, up to 5 minutes. You can use that time any way you like. And there will be roughly 2 minutes per committee member for questions. Welcome.
Good afternoon, panel. This is probably the 7th time I've been before you. My name is Officer Sue Shine. I'm tasked very much like Renee Kerner. We have similar personalities. You got to be a little crazy to work with kids like we do, but it's been a joy of our lives to be a part of it. And you know, she could probably sell snow to an Eskimo. And truly, it's the kind of job that we love, so it's easy to sell. The program I run is a little different because it's a long-term mentoring program, and rather than bring a student, I know I brought a family last time I was here when we took over the program exclusively. What I did today, because I think the only glitch we have in our program is spending some of our money down because of our background process. This is Maria, and she's in the process to be hired as my assistant, and I just wanted her to introduce herself to you, maybe tell you kind of why she got involved with our program, but you know, in those of you that may not know about us, that makes us a little different. This is a long-term mentoring program. We don't have too many bells and whistles. We just meet every single Tuesday from 3 to 7 every week. And we meet with kids between 9 and 11. We take them in and we keep them in our program until they're 14, 15, somewhere in there. And we graduate them at the end. So they meet weekly. We feed them dinner. We have a curriculum. It's a curriculum-based, lesson-based program based on the 6 pillars of character. Pretty much everything we do revolves around those things, you know, making sure that these kids understand that we're going to treat each other with respect. They create a family within the group that we're in, and much like Renee spoke of, I bring in the younger siblings, which helps the whole family. This this has become a safety net for the family, which over the years that I've run this program, I've seen more and more. Yes, once a month we go on a day-long outing, and it's fun for the kids. Usually we try to do something that's entertaining and educational. But in addition to that, we have families that are obviously, like so many, hit hard by a lot of issues. We have a lot of mental illness issues. We have a lot of financial issues. We have families that are evicted. We have families that they're out of work. We have one of my newer families. It's a single child and a parent living in a room, rented in a one-bedroom apartment. And mom works at Taco Bell and goes to school at night. So to learn the language, I mean, this is the kind of struggles that our families face. So we don't serve a lot of kids, but the kids we serve well. The Christmas spirit, this year was amazing. We sponsored pretty much every family with several $100s. I'm very good at going in the community and asking. I have a student that has a lot of mental illness in the family, many evictions in the family. They've moved around quite a bit. And in March, she has the opportunity to go to New York with her school. In the past 4 years, we've transformed her. The kids in the program have uplifted her, and she's gotten basically 4 A's and 2 B's. She's on the drill team now. Mom's stabilized with the medication. Family Services from Glendale helped Dad get a job. It's just been really positive. So we went out and did a little outside fundraising. She's going to New York. So, this is the kind of stuff that we want to do for these children. We also have 2 now that are explorers, that we've grown up and now have moved on into the exploring field. Recently, because of the pending potential for cuts to community services, which is where I work out of, my longtime volunteer, Dorothy, went out and she got 7 letters that represent 13 students, some of which graduated 5 years ago from this program, about how much this program has meant to them, 2 of which are going to be going to probably Ivy League schools in the fall, that are all from single-parent homes. The kind of struggles that really face our community, we represent, and we just, and developing the relationship with law enforcement, of course. So with that, I just appreciate the opportunity to continue doing what I do, and I understand we haven't spent down our money, but our background process, as I think anybody that knows the police department, we're more thorough than most, and Maria has been a trooper through that, and she's volunteering through the whole process, and once she's completely on board, she'll take over the responsibilities that I'm terrible at, which involves the paperwork part of it and some of that stuff that I just don't have time for with my other regular job.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Stianian?
This question's come up on several occasions. I think the board is concerned with the likelihood that we can't satisfy everyone's requests to the full amount requested. If we can't satisfy it to the fullest extent, what will happen? Will you be okay?
The primary goal that I have for CDBG funds is to pay her so that I can be a more, fully committed community police officer, which is my new assignment. I'm no longer at schools. So I'm a community police officer. I'm not supposed to run this program. But the position that is supposed to run it doesn't exist anymore. So I'm doing it because I love doing it. Maria, by her coming in, taking those hours, I can do my job better. If some of it is cut, we'll be okay, because I think there's a little bit of a cushion that we try to, for some, sometimes I get we call Dad's P card, which is my lieutenant, will offer me the credit card and I'll go and get some supplies. Once in a while it pays for an outing, but believe me, I'm very good at asking for that. That's not a problem. But my focus is getting her paid, and she's worth it. That's really the only reason I asked for your funds. As long as it covered her salary, everything else we could do without.
And I ask because I want to. It's a great program. I want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olivares.
I really don't have any questions, but just I love the program. We've been supporting it for many, many years, and it's nice to see that somebody else hopefully will come along if we decide to do something with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cornell.
Maria, I want to thank you for raising your hand. It's not easy to do that. I've generally raised my hand, but the only time I didn't, I got drafted by the U.S. Army. So here I am, but it made me a better person. So I'm happy that the officer is getting relief and concentrate on the bigger things here, and more management and whatnot, and that able to have a good assistant such as yourself beside her. I really don't have any questions except, looking over your goals and objectives, and I see that you met or succeeded all of them. I generally gauge everything by that as far as the program. And you have, and you've done an outstanding job, and continue the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Bagdasarian.
Very good program. It's very balanced in what it covers, and glad that you did find a good assistant for you, and hope that you'll still be able to spend time as part of the audience and choose to spend the time with them.
I think we're very happy to have her. She's a local girl, so she
I
she
know.
understands the kids.
Thank you.
Very good. And I also very much admire your program. And, hearing about, a couple of your former graduates maybe going to Ivy League schools, that is unbelievable. You're talking about such a difficult process in getting to that point. So I want to commend you for your work on that. I had a couple of questions. I'm the stickler of the group. One of the weaknesses in your RFP that wasn't addressed is the documentation of low to moderate income eligibility.
Right.
Can you address that, please?
I
now?
certainly can.
Wonderful.
That's I suck at paperwork. I was using the old template, and I didn't even realize the question was in there until Ms. Arsenet showed it to me. I went, oh, but I think she could attest to the fact that I have provided the documentation. I have a W-2 that covers 3 of my students, and then I have another one that covers 2 more. So I'm way over the 10% as far as that goes. So,
Perfect.
and I have a brand new student whose dad's going to be bringing his paperwork on Tuesday as well. So,
Wonderful. Okay, good. That was really the only question that I had, and we so want to meet our volunteer who we will be funding with these monies potentially. So please tell us a bit about yourself and what your background is and what you're going to do in the program.
Well, I'm attending Cal State LA. I'm a social work student, and I live in Riverdale, and I've seen a lot of ups and downs in my community, and as a social worker and a community member there, I've been wanting to help children and make sure they have the potential to go to college, and so basically that's why I'm here, because I want to help my community, and I know a lot of kids there, and I've seen them grow up, so I'm really interested in this program.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks very much for coming.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
Okay, take a few moments to go ahead and fill out your forms. Okay, our next group is the project is the Community Outreach Program, and the sponsor is the Armenian Relief Society of Western USA. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Casey McFall. I'm a program development consultant with Armenian Relief Society. And ARS is grateful to be back again, proposing to continue services under City of Glendale CDBG. ARS has received CDBG funds from the city for probably over 20 years now, and those funds have served as a basis for providing safety net services and targeted services to low-income immigrant populations in the area for quite a while now. We are proposing to continue the program that we initiated last year with some extensions of including safety net services to the basic services that we're providing. Actually, safety net services have always come along with everything that ARS has provided, because as you're aware, anytime you serve a low-income population with regardless of any type of service that you provide, those types of situations present themselves in which people are in an emergency situation and in need of immediate response. So the safety net services, although they're formally being added this year, have always been part of the program. Our program consists of 3 different components. The first is life skills, English as a second language classes to seniors. You may be aware that the refugee population in LA County is expanding very rapidly. We're expecting 2 full plane loads of people this month. Many of them from Iran, most from Iraq, most of them Farsi and Arabic speakers, for which ARS has specific capability of serving linguistically and culturally. Some of the services that you'll see provided by ARS are possibly available in other venues, but the situation at ARS is unique for the population in Glendale because it's not only linguistically capable, but it's also culturally competent. And when you have brand new people coming into the country who are not just seeking someplace where they speak your language, but they need someplace where they can feel at home and feel comfortable and disclose particular issues, sometimes sensitive issues that they're not always comfortable talking about with people they don't know. A place like ARS, with which they're familiar, no matter what country they're from, they know ARS, goes a long way towards helping them be able to disclose issues and allow us to serve them. This goes into the ESL classes that we're talking about. Seniors are not only taught basic English in order to get by, but that English is taught in a way that helps them understand lifestyle issues in the United States, helps them understand family issues, basic safety issues. How do you read a stop sign? How do you know when to cross the street? How do you understand what it means on your medicine bottle when it's in English? How do you understand when the gas is on or off, or how to call the police, when to call 911, when not to call 911, what to say and how to communicate. All of those things are done in a manner that also helps them build basic English skills as they go along. Another component of the program has to do with individual and family counseling, which for new immigrant populations is specifically needed because oftentimes, usually all of the time, when new families come to the country, younger people become acculturated much easier and much quicker. And so you have these generational issues that present themselves. So by providing culturally and linguistically competent counseling services to families, not just individuals, although they may receive counseling individually as well as in a family setting, we're able to help address those things to help people become acculturated, to help them move into society, contribute to society at a little quicker manner, in a more comfortable manner. And then we're also continuing to provide job search assistance, employment referrals, and a lot of the employment referrals also have to do with cultural competency. What does an employer expect in the United States? What does it mean when you say you have to be there at 8:30? That's different in the United States than it means in some other countries. How do you present yourself in a resume? How do you talk to someone in an interview that is appropriate for an American workplace? And then it also has to do with things like, basic cultural things that have to do with finding employment, like dress, hygiene, those kinds of things that may differ from country to country. We maintain an active job board listing. We help people not just write resumes, but we help them practice introducing themselves. We do mock interviews, sometimes take people to interviews, set up job connections with them. All of our services are rooted in good documentation and program outcomes. Our ESL classes are competency-based, which means that we don't want to just know how many people went to class and how many finished, but what did they learn and how well did they learn. What kinds of impact did our services make on someone's life, and how will that continue as they learn to adjust to society.
Very good. Questions, we will start with Mr. Olivares.
Thank you. Actually, I want to thank you for in the last 5 minutes you gave the public, I think, a very good picture of what the ARS does. We happen to know what you guys do because we visit you every year and we go through the proposals, but you do quite a bit of work, and especially in a community like Glendale where we have such an influx of, I'll say, Middle Eastern Easterners. It's a great job. And I did have a question. Last time when we visited, I believe you were just starting your job placement computer system, or you were in the process of. How's that going?
We have a couple different job placement computers. So you're speaking specifically for the computerized system for this program.
Correct.
Which basically is kind of an outcomes tracking, kind of like just a basic spreadsheet program. So that's tracking fine. That's working well. Part of what we do, because we have other programs that sometimes intersect, we have to make sure that there aren't that there isn't overlap in how we track our outcomes, so that what you're getting is clean information based only on the services that we're providing and you're paying for. So that computer system is a spreadsheet that's just tracking basically how many people are coming from this program alone, and how they're progressing in the program.
So you can easily tell us, for example, how many people got placed in the last year.
Absolutely, yeah. In the last quarter, I think we can do it by month. That's updated. Yeah, I think we could do it like in the last month. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivares. Let's go to Mr. Cornell.
I really don't have any questions. I'm just looking over your objectives and goals that were attained, and it looks like you met and exceeded pretty much all of them. So you do a good job.
Thank you.
Continue the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Mr. Bagassarian.
It's wonderful to come to your facilities each year. We see the work that you do in each one of the sections. I think, as we've talked about here today, it's very important to provide that information for the new immigrants that come to this country. A lot of them would be coming here in a time that is not the best as far as the economy goes, and they need that extra support to get on their feet. You mentioned about the fact that you have the right mixture of the team and the background maybe to work with these immigrants. I think that's very important because it provide them an environment where they can trust, maybe being new in a country, the same type of material may be provided to them in different environments, but that element of trust may not be there for them. And this is nothing against those other organizations, it's just that it's a human thing, and I'm glad that you're there and you're providing that information for them, the generational gap, to be able to, for them to be able to communicate with someone with the same background. I think that's going to be very important.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. We at ARS pride ourselves on the fact that in almost any country in the world, people know ARS. ARS was started as the Armenian Red Cross many, many, many years ago. So no matter where you go, people know ARS. And oftentimes when they come off the plane, when they get here, that's the first thing they look for is ARS. So while there are wonderful organizations throughout Glendale that provide, some of them similar services, some of them, safety net services, and they provide good services, the ability for somebody to come someplace that they know and trust immediately, where they can come in and feel at home, and they don't have to come several times until they know that they can say, I've got a really bad problem at home. This is what's happening with my son. That they can do that immediately because they know ARS and they trust them, helps us to respond more quickly.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagassarian. Mr. Sinanyan.
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate all the points that have already been made. I think it's a wonderful organization. I mean, like you said, ARS is well known everywhere, and especially in the city of Glendale, fills a void that I'm not sure what would happen in the absence of the ARS, just because of the very unique composition of the population of Glendale. So, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a one-stop shop basically, and that's one of the great things about your program and the sponsor itself. I mean, we read here 28-year history of responding to the needs of low-income residents. Collaborating with a variety of social service agencies, including schools and churches. You address about half a dozen of the needs that are present in the funding proposal, and so I want to thank you for coming out and presenting and answering our questions.
Well, thank you. And if I could just say on behalf of ARS that we are extremely appreciative of the support the City of Glendale has offered us over the years and look forward to continuing that relationship. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take a few moments to fill out your forms. As we spoke about earlier, the Hask Armenian American Community Center, the Media for You program, has withdrawn their proposal. So we will move on to the Senior Services Program, sponsored by the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes, Mr. Durant.
before we begin that interview, would it be possible for everyone to submit their completed rating forms thus far, Martha, so we can begin to tabulate the results?
Of course.
Up to the last one, or just the morning ones?
Up to the last one.
Get the morning ones.
Those are the morning ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Just the additional ones.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. You'll have up to 5 minutes to make your presentation. Use those minutes any way you'd like. And then there will be roughly 2 minutes per committee member for questions. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Amirian.
Armenian, both are accurate.
Committee members and staff. My name is Adriana Pebley. I'm the supervisor for the Senior Services Program. This is Maggie Kavarian. She's one of our care managers. For the past 22 years, the City of Glendale has been providing services to the senior community. We're a unique program because we're coupled with intercare management, case management services, and home delivered meals and congregate meals. Our seniors are the ones that reside in Glendale, La Crescenta, and Montrose. They have to be 6 years and over, and homebound for the home delivers meals. We've been serving at a rate this past quarter of approximately 1,145 home delivered meals clients. Our normal last year was 875, which was our average. So we've seen an immense amount, 270 additional clients that we've been getting for home delivered meals. This is probably, we've determined that this is caused by the financial crisis and the baby boomers that are retiring at an alarming rate. So we're asking to continue funding our care management program, which would keep our part-time care manager for 20 hours a week for the entire year. Currently, our current funding only allows us to have our care manager part-time up to approximately 5 months. So at this point, we've already exhausted our funding for the care manager that we have. We're asking for funding to fund her salary for the entire fiscal year at 20 hours a week to continue providing services. We are also asking for funding to allow us to reach out to those home delivered meals clients that are homebound. We currently have 18 on our waiting list. We'd like to be able to reach out to those. They've been waiting, some of them as long as 3 months for services. Some of the clients, this is the only meals they have for the day. So that's what our funding would be for, to be able to reach out to those. We 82% of the seniors that we serve are residents of the city of Glendale. 85% of them are low income or extremely low income. We provide our income verification forms without a problem for our seniors, even though we've been told it's not required for seniors. Some of our seniors have a difficult time providing that information for us. I'm going to turn it over now to Maggie Kavarian, who will provide some visuals as to what scenarios we encounter.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Maggie Kavarian with the City of Glendale Senior Services Section. What I want to do is I want to pass these pamphlets out to you so you can take a look at some of the progress we've made, some success stories. We're a safety net in this community. It's very important to help the seniors in this community, and I hope this kind of explains what we do.
Thank you. While those are getting passed out, questions. We'll start with Mr. Cornell.
Wanted to ask you on the senior program, how many now is on your waiting list
Currently,
that are not assigned as far as case management?
for case management, we currently have 15 on our waiting list that are not being served, and this waiting list can last approximately 3 months. It's based on the needs relative to one another. It was 6 when the year started. It has now grown to 15.
On the Meals on Wheels, does your department, your unit, actually go out and deliver these, or do you have a city unit? I believe there was something there that they had on the HR that had a opportunity for a driver to do this. Is this part of the program, or is this part of your unit here that you deliver on this?
Yes, it is. We have a part-time meals delivery driver actually out right now.
And there's another outfit also, because I know my boss, when I retired from McGraw-Hill, he left after I did. And he's over in the Valley now, working at a food bank. And he has the Meals on Wheels. Do you work with these people, or do you have any working relationship with any of these? I know that's in the Valley, but what about here in Glendale?
We actually do. Salvation Army Meals on Wheels is a separate program from our Meals on Wheels, which is actually, we call ourselves home delivered meals. The difference is they go out every day. We go out once a week. They charge about $6 a meal. We only ask for a $2.50 donation. So we really serve the lower income community here in Glendale. And we do collaborate with them.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that, because I want to avoid any duplication at what you're doing and what the Salvation Army are doing. This is, we talk about the kids not having insurance, the plight of them. Of course, fortunately, we have organizations like GHK, but seniors are a different matter here. There's no one there. There's no parents there. Most of them are by themselves. Some maybe have type 2 diabetes or can't get out, or other chronic illnesses. So I'm very susceptible to that, and I'm happy to see that you're addressing this and find some measurement to be able to work with these seniors and provide the needed services so that they can survive this ordeal that which really is unprecedented, especially during the tough times we're in now. So,
if I may also, the Salvation Army is a warm meal, and it's a higher cost than what we provide. We provide frozen meals at a more low cost. It's half the cost that the Salvation Army provides.
okay. I like your direction. I saw the brochures here that you have, and also your leisure guide. I enjoy the comments by George. I hope he continues his. You can relay my comments to him. But continued success. You're doing a good job there.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Mr. Bagdasarian.
Very good program. As I go through the different pamphlets that you have, different information, it seems like a very worthy job. $2.50 a meal. Keep up the good work. What happens if someone doesn't have the $2.50? You just don't deliver them.
It's actually a donation-based
The
program. We
donations,
don't
yeah.
turn anyone away.
So if they don't have the money, they still get the food. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagdasarian. Mr. Sinanian.
Great program. As a former Parks Commissioner, I'm very familiar with it, and especially in these times, it's very important that this program is supported. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Mr. Olivares.
I just have a follow-up question. If I'm a senior and you can't provide me services, what do I do?
Well, we will refer you out to what, it would be a specific, you have to give me a specific example, and I could refer you out to who can help you.
Okay. So they do ultimately get some kind of support?
Yes. Everybody that walks into the door gets some type of referral or resources. We don't turn anybody away. That way, we just can't do an ongoing case with every single person that walks through the door. We go based on their needs individually, and those with that are higher risk are the ones that are seen first.
What's the longest time that you would have a client with you? For how long will you serve them?
6 months to a year.
Okay, so you have a constant turnover
Yes.
of seniors.
Our average caseload or client on a case lasts about 3 to 6 months. But we have had those cases that exceed that.
Is there anybody else in town that does this? Provide?
I believe that the Armenian Society does as well. But they only do the care management.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivares. Just maybe a couple questions. How did you make up the funding deficit for 0809? Or will you be making that funding deficit up?
We've had decreased meals. We were serving meals at such a high rate in the beginning of the year that we've had to decrease dramatically for the home delivered meals. We were serving out of almost 1,200 meals a month. We're now at 750 a month. So we've had to remove clients off the list. Off the service and place them on the waiting list. For the ICM, for the care management program, we've just increased our waiting list for it. But as stated earlier, everybody gets at least the resources. Nobody is turned away. We just can't open a case with everybody that walks through the door.
Now, your request for 09-2010 is $48,435, right?
Yes.
None of that is actually going to the meals themselves, right?
For the actual meals, yes. The portion of it is going for the home delivery meals for the 18 clients that we'd like to serve.
$25,078 is going to the
It's going.
Contractual services catering. Okay. Okay, very good. I see how that is. And you said how many meals is that roughly? 1,000 meals?
For what, I'm sorry?
For $25,000?
That's 6,552 meals. It's for 18 clients, 7 meals frozen per week.
You got those numbers down, huh?
And what happens for 09-2010 if we're not able to fund you your full amount? You're just going to decrease the number of meals?
We're going to continue decreasing the numbers, and unfortunately, right now what we're doing is it's based on the needs. The higher risk ones are the ones that are seen first. If we continue to get referrals and see people, a senior seeking assistance at the same rate, then those that are seen right now at such high risk will also be placed on the waiting list, which will continue to grow as well as the period of the waiting list.
And the rest of your funding, since you're requesting 26% of your total budget, the rest of the funding comes mostly from the Park, Recreation, and Community Services?
We're the Area Agency on Aging, the LA County, and then a portion of it comes from the city's general fund.
Do you know off the top of your head what portion that is?
Off the top of my head, I do not. Sorry. 15%.
15%.
Thank you.
So 15% of the total budget comes from the City of Glendale's general fund.
General fund.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming by. And again, you know what? Visiting your program is always a good time for us as well. The seniors, playing their pool and backgammon out on the hall. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead and fill out your forms. Our next program is the Youth and Family Services Program, and the sponsor is the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department. You'll have up to 5 minutes to make your presentation. You can use those 5 minutes in any manner you'd like, and there will be roughly 2 minutes per committee member for questions. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Amirian, committee members, and staff. I am Carolyn Fuentes, Community Services Manager for the City of Glendale Parks Department Human Services Programs. Typically, Walter Alvarez, many of you have met him, our Community Services Supervisor, would be here. He is with a sick child today, so I am representing the program. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about our CDBG proposal as well as our program and answer any questions you might have. Youth and Family Services Program is requesting continued funding for a Community Services Coordinator position at a rate of 80% full-time equivalent to conduct youth outreach and case management services for 350 youth and their families and provide information, referral services, and direct services to these individuals. While our focus is on improving the quality of life for youth, we recognize the importance of meeting the immediate needs of the entire family in order to reduce the barriers to attending school, obtaining employment, and avoiding entrance into the juvenile justice system. This program year, we are seeing increased requests for service and referrals in the area of financial assistance, housing, employment, and food. These particular requests reflect the economic conditions in our community, and the requests for basic needs are increasingly desperate. I'd like to share with you an example of the type of situation that we are seeing all too often in the news and as well as in our community. We recently received a referral from Glendale Police Department from the STAR program, Officer Sue Shine. She referred to a gentleman who was emotionally distraught and he had feelings of hopelessness. He needed so many services he didn't know where to start. He's an engineer who had recently been laid off. Compounding the problem was that he was not able to pay for medications for his wife who has a serious medical condition. He also has a 16-year-old daughter in the home. He was getting behind on utility payments, which was beginning to threaten his housing status as well. Because of the gentleman's prior year earnings as an engineer, the wife had been previously denied payments from Social Security, from SSI, as well as Medi-Cal. Our staff worked with the gentleman, took a team approach, referred the gentleman to Betzedic Legal Services, GWP's Bill Payment Assistance Program. We also worked with him in applying for jobs in his chosen field so that he could begin once again attaining that high salary. And we also walked him through the process of reapplying for assistance through DPSS for Medi-Cal to help his wife with medical payments, as well as going through the process for SSI recertification. Today I'm happy to report he's working as an engineer, his daughter is thriving in school, and they have a medical payment program so that he can get his wife back on track in terms of her medications. Through a combination of direct services that we provide and referrals to and from our collaborative partners, in this case Glendale PD, we were able to turn this family situation around and provide a safety net. Our program grows administratively and programmatically stronger every year. This year we've been able to meet the income verification requirement. In fact, during the second quarter we hit a compliance rate at 22%. We're on target to meet our annual goals despite being understaffed by a community services specialist position, and that's a full-time position that's on freeze right now due to a city-wide hiring freeze. You know this from our reports, but 85% of our clients are Glendale residents, with the remainder having some sort of tie to Glendale. They're former residents, they work in Glendale, or they have family in Glendale. 74% of our clients are identifying themselves as low income or extremely low income. I'd also like to share with you our resource guide, which many of you have seen before. Oh, you have them. Okay, great. I'll take those back then. This has been a valuable resource. We used Parks Department money for this. So CDBG funds did not create this. However, the staff worked on it and put this resource together. We printed thousands of them. We put them out in the community. Our collaborative partners have them. All of the CDBG-funded social service providers have them. And we gave them ample copies so that every case manager and every social service worker out there in our community has one at their desk, easy to reference. We continue to get calls for additional copies of that, and we have that on our website as well in the Parks Department, so we make quarterly updates. This is just one example. We also do community workshops that we invite social services providers to be able to bring the community together. So we do direct services, referrals to our community partners, and we take referrals from our community partners. I am happy to answer any questions you might have about our program or our proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Bagdasarian?
Seems like yours is also one of the programs that we're going to see more and more need for it, given the economic situation. Now I see that we're paying for, at least you're requesting for one coordinator, and given your current budgets, if we could only approve part of it, or what would happen to that person, and how would you be able to continue to serve the community?
We will be in the same situation that we're in this year, which is we have exhausted our funding. I think we have, at this point, about $15 left to spend in the program for that position. And so at this point, we are going to have to start scaling back the outreach that we can do.
Now, and this is an area that, at least, I think it would vary from, organization to the next. We hear that with the other, program that we're looking at, 15% of the funding was coming from City of Glendale and the rest from the LA County. What other resources do you have available to you?
In Youth and Family Services program, we have Parks Department General Fund money, and then we also, to a smaller degree, take donations for in-kind services. So when we do, let's say, our Alley Cat program, which is our program to help get youth involved in cleaning up their communities, and we accept donations of food or T-shirts or in-kind services to offer as rewards for those participants who complete the program. And so to the extent that we can get in-kind services donated, we do that as well from the community.
Thank you, Mr. Bagdasarian. Mr. Sinania?
No questions.
Mr. Olivares?
I have a question. Last time, or 2 years ago, there was a bit of an issue with the position, the coordinator. Has that been settled?
Let's see. Last year, I know that we were, when we were here last year, there was a concern about our being able to spend the money because of what we had spent through the first quarter. And part of that issue was, actually the bulk of the issue was being able to fill the coordinator position. That position is filled. It's filled with an hourly staff person. And so that's why we've been able. In fact, last year we did spend, I think, all but about $2,000 and some change. So we were able to spend last year's money up to just below our $30,000 funding level. This year, that's not been a problem at all. That position was filled. We hired. Her name is Rita Kachikian. She came from Verdugo Job Center, so she has a strong background in serving youth in employment and vocational training situations. Speaks both Spanish and Armenian, so she's been a great fit for our program. In terms of what happens for funding, if we were not able to find additional funds this year for her position to augment the CDBG hours, I'm not sure if she would stick around until July, and so then we would be kind of in the same position of having to recruit for that position.
So besides the CDBG funds, you obviously get support from Parks and Recs.
Correct, but not for her position, just for the community services supervisor.
As a general, yeah.
Yes.
Do you get any from the general fund?
Yes, it's Parks Department General Fund.
Okay, it's through the Parks Department, so, okay. Yeah, because I've noticed that a lot of the city programs do get leveraged by general funds through the particular department, so that seems to be the case on all of your proposals. Thank you.
Mr. Cornell, if you would allow Mr. Bagdasarian
I
has a
would like
follow-up
to
question.
yield to him so he can finish his line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Mr.
One thing
Bagdasarian.
comes to just I'm not familiar how some of these organizations work. In an office environment, if you have to have some cutbacks, you say, well, you had a person for AP and one person for AR. You go do both AP and AR. Does that type of a thing happen, or you're pretty much very much set in programs, so you cannot say, well, the two programs, the CDBG is fund, if we'll just kind of have one person instead of killing one, just kind of handle the two. Does that type of a thing happen?
We have, I manage both youth and family services as well as our senior services programs. And so to the extent possible, we have blended the office specialist who works primarily and is funded primarily through senior services programs, through the LA County funding, orders supplies for youth and family services and receives those supplies and handles some billing. So we have made some efforts there and to kind of decrease expenses. In terms of staffing right now at Harvard House, we have Walter, the community services supervisor, who also manages our therapeutic recreation program and that staff for adults with developmental disabilities. So even his time is being shared. We have a community services coordinator full-time, then we have a vacant specialist position, and then we have the CDBG position. So at Harvard House, there are 3 staff members, not all of whom who work full-time on this project. So we've kind of slimmed down as far as we can go there. In terms of purchasing office supplies, it's very minimal. We have we make no rent payments, obviously, because we own that property, and that. I just also wanted to remind you, if you've been to the Harvard House, you saw how small that was. We are in April moving around the corner to Cedar property, which, as you've heard in the past, will become the new Cedar Heritage Mini Park Garden, I believe it's called. And so in April, we'll be moving into that larger facility. It's right now being retrofitted for ADA accessibility and HVAC and new electrical.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagdasarian. Mr. Cornell.
Okay. I see here that you have about 50 case managements. Has that increased since we saw you last year during the times we're in at this time?
Our case management youth are typically youth who are coming through the juvenile justice system, and they've either come to us through the Pasadena Juvenile Court, which handles all of the Glendale clients, or through probation services. And while we haven't seen an increase there, where we have seen the increase is people who come in just for general referral and direct services. That's where we've seen people coming in who are desperately in need of employment, or their home is being foreclosed, or their rent has increased so dramatically that they have to find an alternative housing situation, or that they need money for food, or that they have compounding problems. So those generalized referrals are what we see a dramatic increase in.
Should come in as a surprise knowing George myself, but I like the direction that you have, the information, and how you present it, and your binder here that gives everything at the tip of their thumb, that they can flip through it, provide the services, names, contacts, phone numbers, websites, so on. Basically, you're doing an outstanding job there. I'm more for goals and objective. I look at that, and I see in all the cases here that you met or exceeded all of them. So continue the good work. We're happy to be able to work with you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornell. So your 2009-2010 request is $44,416, which represents 17% of your total budget. Where is that other 83% coming from?
Parks Department General Fund.
So the full 83% is coming from the Parks Fund. Okay. Definitely, we visited your program. It's fantastic. That little blue book has an amazing amount of information in it, an unbelievable amount of information in it, and it was probably one of the most surprising things we saw, especially when we were told no CDBG money was used for it. So I think ideas like that are what really, they're little things, and sometimes people don't even think about them, but that's really what increases your outreach potential 100-fold, 1,000-fold, because it gets those little books out there. So I really did want to commend your program, and thank you for coming out here today. Thanks very much. Okay, go ahead and fill out your forms.
I'm going to give mine back.
I know. You can. Yeah,
I don't want to.
definitely can. We have one more program, and because we are now actually ahead on time, I don't think they've showed up yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my awesome chair powers to put their presentation on hold and go to community oral communications. And I have one card. Mr. Philpott, please. And 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Mr. Amirian, and members of the Community Development Block Grant Committee and members of staff. My name is Bruce Philpott. I'm a resident of Glendale. Just want to share just a little bit with you. I know you've heard throughout the course of this day, and will continue into, I believe, Wednesday, a series of presentations from organizations in this community that the primary function is to reach out for people who are underserved, our lower income people, people on fixed income, people who may need assistance temporarily or in a more permanent status in some cases, but nevertheless people whose quality of life would not be consistent with our expectations, our ethics and sense of morality in this community without this kind of assistance, this outreach. You gentlemen have a very difficult decision because as I have looked down the score of numbers of those that are seeking assistance and requests, the ability to fund them fully so that they can perform within their maximum effort is being undermined by a lack of funds. And often we hear about this recession, and the result of this recession is causing all of this. I have just a little different take on that, and I want to share that with you today. The city, and I've looked at the flow of money, the CDBG money that comes through the city of Glendale, and the Glendale's responsibility to disperse this money annually. It's about $6 million a year. Is that correct?
A little less.
From looking at the budget, it looks as though about a third of that is siphoned off and goes into the city. Now, there's perhaps a legitimate argument that maybe 15% for administrative operational overview, but that figure comes to, as I understand it, somewhere between $700,000 and $800,000 to administer this program. But the rest of that money, $1.1 million, $1.2 million, $1.5 million, if you look at the allocation over the last 3 years for money that is going into the Pacific Park pool, contributes such a large amount that it does constitute 1/3. There are many cities that take a stronger moral and ethical stance on this and say, we're not going to take any of that money. The money and the intent of the legislation that created this many decades ago was meant for a different purpose. It was meant for people who are truly underserved, people who are not receiving adequate food. Today, there are members of our electrical power division that go out in this city, primarily into South Glendale, and they're cutting off services, electrical services, to dwellings. We are paying, our residents are paying the highest electrical rates in the state of California right now. And the rate at which they are going out and cutting electrical services to these dwellings has doubled this year from last year. Doubled. That tells me that there are a lot of people in this community on fixed incomes who have made a decision that it's more important to pay their rent, it's more important to have food in their mouths than it is to have electricity coming into their homes. To me, that is another issue of morality and what are our overall policies in this community as it relates to the distribution of the revenues that do come into the city in its various forms. The City Council last week was asked a question. Because we have this additional $8 million shortfall that's projected between now and the end of this year, that's in addition to the initial $10 million that the city started with leading up to the adoption of this current budget. $10 million, now $8 million, is an $18 million total shortfall. To bring this into balance again, what is happening is that the parks and recs and libraries are threatened with up to a 30% reduction in their overall budget. Think about that. I know some of you gentlemen have said on other committees and parks and recs, you have a sense of the kind of impact that that will have. I'd like to share a solution that I have
Briefly,
with you,
please,
but I've run out of time. But if
No,
you,
go ahead. The solution, we have some time here. Go ahead.
Thank you. As we know, the city really is in a state of almost desperation for money. But it cannot print money like the federal government can, and it cannot create new sources of revenue, taxes, fees. We have a set of fixed here. The state can do that. But the city of Glendale has a certain percentage of property tax, a certain percentage of sales tax, and to the extent that it can influence rates, such as permits and fees, and primarily our utilities, it has already elevated them to the highest level possible. Water rates are going up by 35% in the next 18 months. What is causing all of this? It isn't the recession, gentlemen. This has been going on since 2002. We have been spending beyond our means since 2002. According to the CAFA report, statistical section on revenue and expenditures, that's our cash flow. That's our city operation cash flow. We have spent over $300,000 more than we have brought in revenue. To offset that, we have taken out $332 million in long-term bond debt. So here's the problem and here's the answer. The drain on all of that is an elevation in the overall payroll of this city in the last 10 years. Our general population grew by 5%, 198,000 to 207. But our city workforce grew by 31%. Now that's 6 times faster than the general population. That adds that's 450 new positions, and at an average of 120,000 per person, that comes to about a $50 million extra drain on the city's revenue, money that we don't have. So we're doing long-term bond debt in order to cover those revenues. We cannot continue this way and to provide the kind of services that citizens are accustomed to, and especially those that are in the greatest need of services.
Thank you, Mr. Philpott.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Right now, we are about 15 minutes ahead. So the next organization, the last organization that was going to give us a presentation has not yet arrived through no fault of their own. So what I think we can do here now is go ahead and take our break. We'll take a 15-minute break, and we will reconvene at 2:45. And at that point, we will hear the presentation from the ARC Family Center, and we will go into our deliberations. Anybody against that? No? Okay, 15-minute break.